Hello, hello. This is Christina Barn. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello, hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about, Fani Willis. It's Fani. Fani Willis and her corruption. She, an interview that she had in 2020 circulating around, and I just saw it today. My mouth just hit the floor because you could not break a campaign promise harder than what she broke. I mean, just like Armageddon meteor coming to the planet, breaking it in half, kind of broken promise. So I'll show you that clip. Also, we're going to talk about Joe Biden. If you recall the other day, when he did his apocalyptic press conference, trying to, I guess, persuade Americans that he was free and clear after he kept classified documents, retained them willfully, and they're like, oh, he did the thing, but he's kind of too much of an old senile man, and basically the jury will feel sorry for him, and they're not going to convict him, so we're not going to do anything about it. He was very upset on how he was portrayed, and he was really upset about how they claimed that he couldn't remember details about his son's death, and he was offended that he even brought it up. According to sources familiar with the interrogation or the interview or whatever, they didn't bring up Beau. Joe Biden brought up Beau, which isn't hard to believe because he always brings up his son as a, kind of a play. And I hate to say that, but it seems like that's what it is. So we're going to read from that article a bit, and we're going to go back in time and look at that. And we're also going to look at something else that I've shown you guys before, but he regularly gets details wrong about his son's passing. And I don't think it's all the time because he's senile. Sometimes he's just a liar. So we're going to have to discern sometimes when he's just lying and when he's just being flat out senile. And also this clip of Tucker Carlson in Moscow that's going around. So we got quite a few things to get through today. Before we jump into it, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate because it does cost to stream. It does cost to run my website, all that stuff you guys can support. I very much do appreciate you guys. You guys can give stars on Facebook. You guys can do super chats on YouTube, or if you're watching it back, you guys can do super thanks. I appreciate that. You guys can also check out different merch that we have available at blacktnews.com. Check out that stuff that supports as well. And you guys can also check out my books. I've written many books, 17 that are published thus far. I have over 30 that's written, but 17 are published. So I encourage you guys to go ahead and check out some of my stuff that I've written. And you guys can just search my name, Christina L. Barr, on Amazon to find my stuff. But if you go to blacktnews.com on the merchandise page, there is a banner that'll take you to my book website. So make sure when you go to the website that you also drop in your email, etc. So I do have something funny to start off with. I do like to start off with something humorous, but it's not funny because it's true, but it was a good little zinger thing that I saw that I wanted to share. So Bernie Sanders asked, what's the most absurd medical bill that you ever received? And someone said, my annual tax bill for other people's health care. And that's a good point. That's a good point. Out of all the bills that are absurd, and maybe he was thinking like, I don't know, like $100 for Tylenol or whatever they charge you when you go to the I don't know, emergency room or wherever. They do have some outrageous bills, man. My sister some years ago, she had something was like her eye was kind of blurry or whatever. And so she went to the doctor, got checked out. I had to take her because they're going to do things to her eyes. So obviously she couldn't drive. So I took her there, and we thought it was just going to be like a little appointment in the morning. Man, she took my whole day from me because they ended up discovering that she like had a stroke in her eye. And they're like, we don't know what caused it, and you're too young to have this, so we have to do a bunch of tests. So they did a bunch of tests. I was there for a while with her, and they had to keep doing tests, and they wanted to not only do tests, but they wanted to have her go in the hospital, because stay in the hospital because they wanted to get like a thorough checkout because they didn't know what happened. So we were going to go to the closest emergency room, and they took entirely too long. This was like a couple years ago, so it was kind of during the pandemic, but it wasn't like warranted for how long the emergency room situation was. And so the kind of estimations they were giving us was crazy. So we're like, you know what? Let's go to this Wahlburgers. And then we're going to drive to her hospital that she usually goes to. So that's what we did. We went to Wahlburgers. And after we went to Wahlburgers, I went to the hospital with her, and I stayed with her, and then she had to stay in there a couple days. And then after I left, they wouldn't let me go back and see her. So my mom was like the only person they allowed to go and see her during that time. And I watched them do a COVID test, and man, they really go up your nose, man. Um, uh, so, but anyway, they never found out what was wrong with her. Never found out. They could never explain why she had the stroke in her eye. We assumed that it was just maybe from stress. And they're like, and then they said there's nothing they could do about it either. So all she got, a medical diagnosis that they couldn't explain, and a big, big, big bill, and no way to fix it other than like, well, it basically is gone now, but I attribute that to time and the Lord, perhaps, because it sure wasn't the doctors. It sure wasn't the doctors. So that happened a couple years ago, and she was still like paying on it and paying it off. So anyway, it's astronomical how much medical bills can be. So I understand why people want other folks to pay for their bills. Don't get me wrong, but you are still paying for other people's bills. So and if people want to do that, like there's this like people bring, we should put our money in and share it on the burden or whatever, etc. Okay, well, there's actually like plans in different organizations where you can do that voluntarily. There's a group called, I guess, MetaShare. They promote it on KLove and stuff. Or actually, no, I guess they don't do it on KLove. They had to do it on some other, because they don't do ads on KLove. It was another Christian station, I guess. But and they talk about MetaShare, and it's just like all these believers pulling their money, whatever, and like covering each other's bills. So those people are voluntarily in a plan to, I pay into this, and it's here when I need it. But in the meantime, I don't need it. So I want to help cover your bills. So I don't know how expensive it is. I don't know how well it works. That's just, I'm putting it out there that people do actually have plans like that. So it is possible for you and other people to get together and say, you know what, we're going to pull our money, and we're going to keep paying into this. And even when I don't need it, I'm going to pay into it because you might need it. Like, you can voluntarily do that. But the idea that everyone should have free health care, which nothing is free. It's just, and you don't want people to work for free. If you were a nurse, you wouldn't want to work for free. You'd want to be able to put food on your table and be compensated for your time and your labor. So nobody wants it to actually be free. They just want it to be covered by someone else. And I get it. But we just have like kind of the worst system, and Bernie Sanders isn't the one who's going to make it better. So kudos to Drika Klaus here for saying her piece about that. Anyway, let's talk about Biden here. Let's talk about Biden. So Joe Biden was very upset uh after the special report came out regarding his mental capacity. Well, it wasn't about his mental capacity. It was about him withholding classified documents. He had documents back to the time of him being a senator. He was never a president. He didn't have some kind of authority to just take stuff home and be like, this is with me now, etc. And he was aware that he had classified documents because he told his ghostwriter, like, oh, I found my classified stuff the other day. And so he had it and retained it. So one, he's not supposed to have it. Two, he was aware that he had it and didn't give it back. Basically, he didn't give this stuff back until the story about Trump, having the classified documents and them going after him. That's when, he's like, oh, by the way, I have these documents, let me turn them in. So he did the thing that he wasn't supposed to do. So there's enough information to say, hey, he did the crime and you guys can convict him if you want to, because he is guilty. He had no sort of authority to just take that stuff. So they try to say, oh, like, oh, there wasn't enough evidence. Like, no, there's enough evidence. But as far as them trying to peg him on like his mental capacity to really be like, beyond any reasonable doubt, like, are they going to be able to nail him with this? I don't know, because the jury is not going to really take that side, because his memory is not so great, and there's they're just not gonna go for it. So we're just gonna, table that or whatever. So that's interesting and alarmed a lot of people, because they're like, well, if he's not competent enough to stand trial, how is he competent enough to run the country? Which is a very good question. But I don't think it's a matter of him being really competent to stand trial. I think that if he just went ahead and stood trial, then they just think that people basically will feel sorry for him and feel like that he probably didn't do all these things to be particularly malicious, and, oh, Joey, that crazy old man, and just kind of leave it at that and not put him in jail. And perhaps, but there's quite a few people who are being charged with different things, who I would assume would like to use the, old person mind excuse. Trump, if he could be like, I don't remember stuff, and get out of all the people who are coming against him. I'm sure he has enough humor to kind of at least play around with that for a little while, if that was legitimately something that could get him off. Then there's the case in Michigan with the electors. Most of the people who they are prosecuting, and there were 16, but one cut a deal, which something happened with his trial. The one who cut the deal the other day, I just seen a couple of tweets on it. I didn't look too much into it, so I'll have to look in that later. But most of them are older. Most of them are retired folks who are up in age. The youngest person was like in their mid 50s. So if we're concerned about whether jurors are going to convict people based on their age and things, why is it only Biden who is getting this special kind of privilege? Now, he's probably not the only person. I'm sure there's other instances where people are really old and are just like, they're one fit in the grave. They're, whatever. But if they really feel this way about him not being able to be charged for his mishandling of classified documents and retaining the classified documents, then well, it just doesn't make sense that they would keep going after Trump in the way that they are. And I know that's different people who've made the assessments and are pushing for it, but these are similar circumstances. I know like Trump like went above and beyond to try to keep them, but at the same time, he at least was the president when he had the documents. Now, he did say like on tape that there was stuff that he had that he didn't declassify. So there's trouble there, but we do know that Biden was aware that he had classified documents that he did not give back. So anyway, the White House is rejecting the sort of framing. A lot of people are upset about the framing of Biden's mind. Now, we have eyes, we have ears. We've seen this man mess up details and other stuff like that. And he seems old. Well, he is old. He seems frail. He is frail. He is old. He is frail. And he just isn't with it. He's, he has to go, he has a lot of lids. He's on a lot of vacations. Lids are when they call, when they're like done for the day. There's a lot of like lids at 11, lids at 12. Like, he doesn't talk enough to the press. He doesn't do enough press conferences, which, by the way, his disastrous press conference was his idea. He was probably upset that they said what they said. So he was like, I'm going to go take my victory lap and prove that I'm great. And then he messed up details of like, the president of Egypt, confusing him with Mexico, etc. So it wasn't a great press conference. But at one point, he was really upset because one of the things that came out in the report was that he got details about his son's death wrong. And so he did this righteous anger, outrage about it. And something interesting came out yesterday about this.
I don't remember when my son died. How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business. Let me tell you something. Some of you have commented, I wear since the day he died, every single day, the rosary he got from Our Lady of... Every Memorial Day we hold a service remembering him, attended by friends and family and the people who loved him. I don't need anyone to remind me when he passed away or if he passed away. Simple truth is, I sat for a 5-hour interview over 2 days of events going back 40 years.
So he did this righteous outrage thing, and then he was like, the rosary, we got the rosary, and then he obviously couldn't remember. And people forget things. The older you get, the more things kind of blend together. Like, for years, my dad would be like, yeah, this happened a couple of years ago. And you start doing the math. And it's like, that was like 20 years ago. What are you talking about? Like, your perception of time is a little off. And he's lived a long time. He's lived a long time, and he's probably forgotten more than most people know. So there's that. But he did this press conference in order to debunk the report and persuade Americans that he was fine. And then he made that major mistake, and he made some other ones in that press conference. So that's why it wasn't great. And his press secretary did confirm the other day that it was his idea to do the press conference. They probably, I would assume, probably thought it was a bad idea, but he did it nonetheless. And we've got clips now. Thanks, Joe Biden. But you saw how upset he was about that. And he said he had no right to raise that. He thought it was none of his business. So he had this righteous indignation of a, angry father, still grieving that his son passed away. And I don't doubt that he's still grieving about, his son passing away. I don't want anyone to, think that I don't think that he loved his son or didn't love his son or anything like that. But, NBC News reported Biden attacked her for asking him why Beau died. That didn't happen, sources say. The president raised his son's death after being asked about his workflow at a Virginia rental home where he said he found classified materials, two sources said. So this story's falling apart. President Joe Biden lashed out at Robert Hur last week over one particular line in the special counsel's report on his handling of classified documents that Biden did not remember, even within several years when his son Beau died. How the heck dare he raise that? Biden told reporters in an impromptu White House press conference. Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself it wasn't any of his bleep business. It's like angry when they start putting in the swear words. But Hur never asked that question, according to two people familiar with Hur's 5-hour interview with the president over two days last October. It was the president, not Hur or his team, who first introduced Beau Biden's death, they said, which isn't a surprise because Biden brings it up quite a bit. And he will bring it up in times it would appear in certain political moments to garner sympathy. And that's not a great thing to say. It's also not a great thing to notice and it kind of be obvious. But totally lied on that man. But maybe he's lying. We have to discern in the moment. Is he lying or is he just senile? I'll have to play this little game, I suppose. Biden raised his son's death after being asked about his workflow at a Virginia rental home from 2016 to 2018, the sources said, when a ghostwriter was helping him write a memoir about losing Beau to brain cancer in 2015. Investigators had a 2017 recording showing that Biden had told the ghostwriter he found classified stuff in that home. The reporter says Biden began trying to recall that period by discussing what else was happening in his life. And it was at that point in the interview that he appeared confused about when Beau died. The sources said Biden got the date, May 30th, correct, but not the year. And I don't, if it was just the year, I don't know if that's like totally like fire alarm or not then. But if it's not as bad as, the White House claims, there are people who have asked, like, why don't you release the transcript? They're not going to do that, but they are going to kind of, I guess, reports are saying they're going to kind of go on their attack pattern to try to, I guess, debunk this stuff. I would assume that whatever is in the report is probably not as bad as what we probably assume it would be. The more things kind of live in our own imaginations, the crazier, more outlandish they get. So maybe there's some instances where he fumbles or he forgets some stuff and we're like, oh, that's not great. That's not great. But it's probably not as bad as everyone just being like, this man is just a dementia ridden fool, but I assume there's probably a lot of reasons why they don't want to release it, but maybe it's really bad and they wouldn't entertain it. But if they're going to release it, they could release the whole thing. And you could say, well, that's a conversation with the president, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. Why would they do that? Well, Trump had to really end up releasing his phone call to try to clear himself with the Zelensky phone call with a perfect phone call, as he said. Didn't do him much, good. He still got impeached, but I guess he set that precedent with just, releasing conversations. Hers 345-page report absolved Biden of criminal wrongdoing while pointing to evidence that he took home and kept highly classified material. How does it absolve him of wrongdoing? It just explained the wrongdoing that he did in that sentence. Even though Biden was found to have disclosed classified information to ghostwriter on 3 occasions, the prosecutors concluded they could not prove the president knew was classified information at the time. Probably didn't know how bad the classification probably wasn't that. But anyway. Yeah. Biden. So you saw how upset he was about that situation with and he knows the details of his son's death. How dare they try to pretend like he doesn't? How dare they even bring it up? So I want to play this recent video. Maybe I played it for you guys maybe 2 weeks ago of Biden talking to a Gold Star family. And he, of course, brings up the subject of his son.
President Biden calling Oneida and Sean Sanders, whose 24-year-old daughter Kennedy was killed in the attack.
I know, everybody, I know there's nothing anybody can say or do to ease the pain. I've been there.
Yes, sir, we understand.
The parents overcome with emotion when the president reveals how their daughter will be honored.
We're promoting her posthumously to sergeant.
Oh, wow. That is the best news I've heard today. Thank you so much. You don't know how much that means to us.
Oh, well, I tell you what, it means a lot to me. My son spent a year in Iraq until I lost him, and I 1% of all these kids are the ones that even take care of 99% of us.
So I brought that up because his son, he brought up a son. He knows what it's like to lose a son, but he keeps bringing it up to different people who served and lost, or parents, families when they've lost someone in the line of duty, which people who lost their children after the Afghanistan pull out was upset how he kept bringing up his son. And they were upset because his son didn't die in the line of duty. He died years later of brain cancer. So why do you keep going this route? You know the details. Now I know he believes that some of the stuff that he was exposed to over there was a cause, but there's no concrete evidence of that. So why did he bring it up there? Is it more offensive that a prosecutor brought up his son during questioning, or more offensive that he brought up that detail to that Gold Star family and it wasn't quite accurate, which he continues to do? Questions. So I think most of the time Joe Biden is lying. I do think he fumbles a lot. He is confused a lot. I think the job is obviously too big for him, and it's always been too big for him. But he's definitely not up to it. He said at that press conference, the impromptu press conference, that he said that he was the best person for this job. If he's the best person for the job across both aisles, that's not a good thing. If he's the best person for the job, the best person on the Democrat roster, that's not a good thing. There are former presidents that are still alive, like Clinton and Bush, and they're younger than Trump and Biden, because they're obviously presidents, much younger than these guys were. But it's kind of crazy to think about. These current the last two presidents we had, the presidents before them are younger than they are. So yeah, it's too big of a moment. Always was too big of a moment. Joe Biden has always been a notorious liar. People are like, oh, he's so decent and kind. Nope. He wasn't. He was the one responsible for the high-tech lynching of Clarence Thomas, and he's always been corrupt himself. If you look at like different bills and stuff that he'd vote on, and with kind of different lobbying with like credit card companies and other stuff, there's just always been shady stuff with Joe. Always kind of had a lower projection of intelligence to a lot of people. And so he was never the person who would be great for this job. But I still believe that the reason why they pushed Joe and Kamala together, well, he needed a black person on the ticket because he had said too many racist things, right? So that's why she ended up on that ticket. But those two particular people, if they did lose to Trump in 2020, the Democrats probably felt like they wouldn't lose much, because he was up there in age. Just like, well, let him have his run. It's not, it's not like he's gonna be able to do it later anyway. And Kamala Harris, she had to drop out before she got embarrassed in her own state. So It was, they were just fine to throw away. If they won, great. But they were fine to throw away. There's other people on the roster that they could uplift at some kind of other time to carry on the torch, carry on the mantle. But they were a good sacrifice in case things didn't pan out. I don't think Joe Biden was like, oh, we have to run Joe Biden again. He's the best person for all this. I don't think so. Maybe this a stronger case right after the Obama White House, but there was that gap of time. So I don't I mean, he's sitting there in the White House, so it worked out for him. Obviously, it's not working out for us, but it's working out for him. But there's definitely better people in the who could do a job. I don't want to see a better job, but I really don't think well, there's Democrats who probably do a better job as far as like trying to do better, like across the aisle, not do as crazy things, but those aren't the kind of people that they want to elevate in the party. And even people who they think might be moderate, because a lot of people thought Joe Biden was gonna be so moderate about stuff, but they sway and they bow to their progressive base and do just really, really radical stuff. Joe Biden has so many radical people in his admin. There's so many people who pay attention, who probably are amazed and horrified at the progression of his administration. Anyway, let's move on to some juicy stuff with Fani. If I forget and say Fanny, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but it just seems like it should be Fanny, but it's Fani. So anyway, Fani is going through the ringer today. It's probably the biggest biggest day of her career, because she's doing some they're trying to figure out whether she's going to be able to stay on this case. So this is a live update report from USA Today. I ran to the courtroom. Fani Willis testifies in election interference hearing. Atlanta, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis is fighting for her professional reputation and the biggest case of her career in a downtown courtroom Thursday as one of former President Donald Trump's confidants tries to get her, the special prosecutor she's having an affair with, and the entire DA's office thrown off Trump's sprawling Georgia election racketeering case. And kudos to the person who threw a monkey wrench at this whole thing. Ain't no shame in your game, man. In a day of drama that featured Willis running to the courtroom and declaring that witnesses were lying, the courtroom fireworks included talk of a rented cabin, trips to Aruba, and a Norwegian cruise. From another state, Donald Trump ranted that the whole show was rigged, even as New York judge set the trial for a different criminal case for March. The hearing marks the first time a judge is examining if allegations surrounding the relationship between Willis and Nathan Wade, a private attorney she hired to oversee the case, are enough to disqualify one or both of them and potentially even to dismiss the Georgia election case altogether after 3 years of investigation and prosecution. My gosh, how do you blow something like this? Willis says in court filings that her relationship with Wade began after she brought him onto the helm of the Trump prosecution, and it has no bearing on the criminal case. But does that... I know that would be really bad if they were dating before, and obviously it seems like they were. All this stuff. And even if that was the case, and she, brought him on or whatever because they were involved or wanted to be involved or whatever, that's really super bad. But even if you began your relationship afterwards, that's still quite bad, is it not? It's still quite bad. It's still quite bad, man. But an attorney for Trump, confidant Michael Roman, says the defense was witness to who can prove that the relationship began well before Willis hired Wade to oversee the prosecution. Willis fought to quash the hearing. She called it a ticket to the circus, but Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee said on Monday scheduled 2 days of testimony because I think it's possible that the facts alleged by the defendant could result in disqualification. Defense lawyers led by Ashley Merchant are trying to remove Willis and Wade from the case based on her allegedly profiting from Fulton County payments to Wade through their relationship. Here is what's unfolding in the courtroom action. That's a lie. Willis denies relationship with Wade began before 2022. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, opened her testimony clashing with the defense lawyer Ashley Merchant, accusing the legal opponent of lying about her and trying to remove her from the election interference case against Donald Trump and 14 remaining co-defendants. Willis said accusations that she began the relationship with special prosecutor Nathan Wade in 2019. Soon after meeting him at a judicial conference, Willis told Merchant that it was offensive to insinuate that Willis would sleep with a new acquaintance on the same day. But it might be true. Is it true? Just because it's offensive doesn't mean it ain't true. That's a lie, Willis said. It's highly offensive when someone lies on you. True. Another witness, Robin Bryant Yurdy, who knew Willis since college and worked in the district attorney's office, testified that Willis began dating Wade in 2019. Willis strongly denied that, agreeing with Wade that the relationship began in 2022. It's highly offensive when someone lies on you, Willis said. Willis said Yurdy is no longer her friend. I think she betrayed our friendship, Willis said. Like a scene on a television drama, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis dropped her refusal to testify in a hearing about her relationship with prosecutor Nathan Wade and dramatically entered the courtroom to testify as members of the audience gasped. I'm ready to go, Willis said. Defense lawyer Ashley Merchant and Craig Gillen had been arguing that her testimony was crucial to corroborate Wade's affidavit and testimony that Willis reimbursed thousands of dollars in travel costs with him in cash. In addition, another witness said the relationship began in 2019 rather than 2022, as Wade testified. And Wade's ex-wife thinks they were doing stuff too. So I don't think she's going to be able to convince anyone that their relationship started years later. There are deep concerns that the affidavit is false and that Miss Willis knew it was false. Gillen said it cries out for her testimony. Prosecutors initially sought to block her testimony, but Willis showed up to oblige. After his New York hush money hearing ended, Trump began weighing in on the Willis hearing by posting clips of television coverage and adding sardonic comments. It's a game changer, Trump said in one Truth Social post. In another post, Trump said it's game over for the Georgia election case, but that is far from clear at this point. The hearing affects Willis more than the case against Trump. Fulton County Superior Judge Scott McAfee scolded one of the co-defendants in the election interference case, Georgia Republican Party Chairman Dave Schaefer, after a minor outburst during a hearing Thursday. A lawyer for another defendant, Ashley Merchant, was in the midst of asking prosecutor Nathan Wade about spending on travel with District Attorney Fani Willis. Wade testified that Willis shared the expenses by reimbursing him with cash, but he didn't have any records of it. It was cash, Wade said. She didn't give me any checks. At that point, Schaefer made a noticeable outburst. Mr. Schaefer, you'll step out if you do that again, McAfee said. Special prosecutor Nathan Wade said that while Fani Willis paid him many thousands of dollars in cash as reimbursement for the trips they took together that he put on his credit card, he kept no record of ATM deposits or anything else to corroborate that. Defense lawyer Craig Gillen pressed Wade on that repeatedly as part of a line of questioning aimed at determining whether Wade used county money he received as special prosecutor for the trips and that Willis derived some financial benefit from it. After Willis reimbursed him in several cases, including one trip that he put $2,794 on his credit card for, did you scamper down to the ATM with Miss Willis to deposit the money, creating a record of that payment? Gillen asked. Wade responded that he never went with Willis to an ATM together. You don't have a single solitary deposit slip to document depositing these thousands of dollars, the money, Gillen asked. Not a one, Wade responded. Do you have a place in your house that you stack up all this cash Miss Willis paid you? Gillen asked. No, Wade responded. Over more than 15 minutes of questioning, Wade said he has no way of documenting any of the case Willis purportedly gave him, and he said that in a discussion of the controversy with Willis, he didn't ask her if she had a way of documenting that she reimbursed him for trips to Aruba and anywhere else. Dun, dun, dun. Another defense lawyer hammered prosecutor Nathan Wade over his sexual relationship with District Attorney Fani Willis, despite providing sworn statements in his divorce that he hadn't entertained women. Wade replied none in a statement May 30th, 2023 to written questions in his divorce about whether he had a romantic relationship or entertained women. Craig Gillen, a lawyer for co-defendant David Schaefer, asked whether Wade had sex with Willis by then. He also asked whether he had entertained. I'm not here to jump into some salacious bedroom situation, Gillen said. Wade replied to the series of questions, yes, but Wade continued to argue that his marriage was irretrievably broken in 2015, which was why he answered the written questions with the term none. Your answer is false, is it not, sir? No, it is not false. Fulton County Judge Scott McAfee halted the line of questions at that point. You've made your point. During his testimony, Nathan Wade would often parse questions. He testified that he didn't have credit cards, receipts, just monthly statements. He would say overnight with Willis, but never cohabitated with her. When questioned about specific travel expenses, such as $3,835 charge to Aruba, or $1,276 for a Royal Caribbean cruise, or $3,387 Norwegian cruise, Wade often challenged the details. He traveled on the first part to the Caribbean cruise with his mother after her retirement, then flew to Aruba with Willis. The Norwegian cruise included his sisters and their husbands. In each case, Wade said Willis reimbursed him for her share. Although he booked a Belize vacation in March 2023, Willis reimbursed him for the entire trip for his birthday, Wade said. But Wade disputed that a $1,481 charge for a Tennessee cabin in August 2023 involved Willis. I book a lot of cabins, Wade said. Nathan Wade, a special prosecutor hired in Georgia election interference case against Donald Trump, said he and District Attorney Fani Willis weren't trying to conceal their romantic relationship, but were private people. Defense lawyers are asking Fulton County Superior Judge Scott McAfee to disqualify Wade and Willis from the case by arguing that she benefited from government payments to Wade through their relationship, but Willis and Wade continued. The relationship began in March 2022 after he was hired in 2021, etc. He's saying, I never purchased a gift for Miss Willis. Wade testified Thursday, and they shared expenses when traveling together. See if there's anything else juicy to read here. This is crazy. Just have no receipts for all this stuff. No one believes this, man. No one believes this. And his ex-wife doesn't believe it either. So no one believes it. And even if they didn't start it until afterwards in 2022, it's still not appropriate. It's not appropriate. So I got to show you guys this clip. This is from an interview that Fani Willis had in 2020 about running and corruption from other folks. And just listen to this. Gotta listen.
Attorney's office in Fulton should be the beacon of the Southeast. It should be the absolute best office between Washington, D.C. and Miami. And right now what you have is a office of dysfunction and corruption, and we deserve better. And I am the right choice to improve it.
Corruption, Ms. Willis, that's a strong word to level against the office that Paul Howard has run for nearly a quarter century. If he gets reelected, it'll be more than 25 years.
You have a DA sitting there that doesn't have the qualifications and the experience to do the job. What I can guarantee you is with my reputation, with my community ties, I am going to be able to attract the best and the brightest minds to that office. You're sitting with someone today that actually wants to make a difference because they deserve a DA that won't have sex with his employees, because they deserve a DA that won't put money in their own pocket when it should go to benefit children, because we deserve better.
Because you won't have a DA that will sleep with their employees, man. Man, oh man. Man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. She didn't keep that promise. She did did not keep that promise, man. Oh my gosh. How can you know? I mean, you do a lot of interviews. You can't remember everything that you said, but you have to remember at some point that you probably said something along those lines, and you recognize that it's not appropriate to sleep with your employees. It's not. Like there could be situations where I don't know, you're in a business with someone who's your wife or whatever, or things can happen, but she's in a level of authority with the biggest case of her life. And now it could all just get thrown out. You know, one thing that is so interesting about Trump and his enemies is that like Trump will like trip over his own feet, and he'll make his own problems, his own issues. Like so many, the Russia collusion hoax and other things that Democrats did to him were like, there was no there, obviously, but they tried. And so when they could do something like look at the documents, like, okay, yeah, he has his documents, like, hey, can you give it back? And he's just like, and they're like, you're not gonna give it back? And he's like, okay, I'll give some back. And he's like, okay, well, we're missing some. And then he's like hiding them all in different places and not being honest with his lawyers and other kind of stuff. They probably felt like, hallelujah, the heavens had opened up, angels singing and whatever, like we finally got him. He finally screwed up so bad, and we're gonna milk the crap out of this as much as we possibly can to get him. And so he's been wrongly targeted, and there's times where he's done some dumb things that's just given folks opportunity. So he definitely causes his own issues. However, his enemies, he's got some crazy enemies that do the dumbest things or are just like the worst possible person at the job. And Fani Willis, it's just crazy over a dude. Now, it's not just over a dude. I mean, there's all this, you know, she's doing what all this exists and is out there because she is willing to be a shady person. So there's other shady stuff. Like there was a whistleblower who said that they were like trying to spend money improperly, and that whistleblower ended up getting fired not too long after that. We played the audio a few weeks ago. So there's other things that are going on in her office that aren't quite passing the sniff test. So this is indicative of the kind of person that she is. And so if she's willing to go that route, you could see that she's probably the type of person who would stretch different cases and laws and apply them perhaps in ways that they shouldn't, to do a racketeering case against Donald Trump and other people. I think that Trump has not behaved in a lot of ways that I, regarding the election stuff, like post-election stuff, that in a way that I would like, or even like some of his staff suggested that he should have acted. But the manner in which how some of these people went after him were still not appropriate. Like you can not like Trump, but still do the right thing on your end. But one thing that's just so broken about our country is the way that people have decided to just throw every sort of rule and logic and propriety out of the window because they hate this guy so much. So but in this particular case with Georgia, that I felt was going to give him quite a bit of trouble, especially because they are going to televise it. And Georgia is a very swing state right now. They just really have screwed the pooch here, because even if they go forward, it's still like politically it's still going to look like these are corrupt folks who are going after the former president, because they don't like him. And even though he did some things that people wouldn't particularly like, is it really illegal? They don't care. They think it's banana republic type stuff. So, and that's why so many voters, I wouldn't say so many, is that we haven't gotten that far in the primary, but according to the polling and stuff, still want to back Trump, because even though they may not like certain things that he's done, or they're even willing to try someone new, when they started going after him for a lot of these cases, that's when they're like, you know what, I'm going to double down on this guy. And even with different polling with like DeSantis, in March of like last year, he stood a chance as far as in people's minds as an alternative. But once like the other people started going down and Trump just started continuing to skyrocket, because people felt like to abandon him would be unfair, and like these other people are winning. Now, whether that ends up being a good strategy we will see how it all pans out in November. But people believe that the folks coming against Trump are corrupt, and she kind of proves that they are. So that's why people just chalk most things up to, they're just picking on him. They're just picking on him. So I'm going to stand by my guy to defend him. So will this eventually have the kind of, hit election day that they originally intended? She's blowing this up quite a bit. Even if they replace her, which it could delay the trial, and if it delays the trial and he wins, it's pretty much, throw it out, I guess. I don't know what they'll end up deciding. But none of this stuff sounds appropriate. None of it. So even if everything goes according to plan, she's still gonna come off like a corrupt DA, the corrupt office that wanted to go after Trump and make everyone around him punished. By the way, I'm going to play this clip of her talking about this situation when allegations of corruption in her and Wade popped up. She was at a church and was basically, trying to make it about race. I believe this is the right clip right here.
You're flawed, hard-headed, and imperfect child. I'm a little confused. I appointed 3 special counsel, as is my right to do. Paid them all the same hourly rate. They only attacked one. I hired one white woman, a good personal friend and great lawyer. A superstar, I tell you. I hired one white man, brilliant, my friend, and a great lawyer. And I hired one black man, another superstar, a great friend, and a great lawyer. Oh, Lord.
But you say he's just a friend. You say he's just a friend. Anyway.
They're going to be mad when I call them out on this nonsense. First thing they say, oh, she going to play the race card now. But no, God, isn't it them who's playing the race card when they only question one? Why are they so surprised that a diverse team that I assembled, your child, can accomplish extraordinary things? God, wasn't it them that attacked this lawyer of impeccable credentials? The black man I chose has been a judge more than 10 years, run a private practice more than 20, represented businesses in civil litigation. I ain't done, y'all. Served as a prosecutor, a criminal defense lawyer, special assistant attorney general. Won Chief Justice Robert Benham Award from the State Bar of Georgia. They ain't just giving this to black men. How come, God, the same black man I hired was acceptable when a Republican in another county hired him and paid him twice the rate? Oh, y'all ain't hear me. In another county, the elected official has the authority to pay him twice the rate. Why is the white male Republican's judgment good enough, but the black female Democrats not?
Well, maybe you're paying him by other means. And she had her nerve as these allegations were breaking out to go to that church and spin it that kind of way to pretend like there was no there with their relationship, and that there wasn't some validity to people's accusations against him, and to be like, oh, they're attacking him because he's black. They're playing the race card because they're racist. It's a shame. It's a shame. It's a shame. It's a shame. People talk about, you know, wanting more representation and more people that look like you. It's important that you have good people who want to represent you. You know, because more in that other interview that I showed you, I mean, she talked about like a lot of racial things, and her I think she said her father or grandfather, she has family who was like Black Panthers, and so she's like very much into black people, etc., blah blah blah. So she has a racial sort of lens that she looks through, and so on. So if you're going to vote for somebody and they're like, oh well, because they're black, and you think just because they're black they're going to have your interests and stuff at heart, doesn't mean that they're obviously going to do a good job or be fair to the community, be responsible to the community. And the worst thing that can happen is when things go wrong, they point to race. That's like the worst thing you can do. Just take accountability for your actions. That's the thing that is so awful when you have people in a job who cannot, you could screw up, but just like be accountable for your actions and then resign. Some of these black churches really need to get it together. Really need to get it together, man. But with her going there and just hee-hawing and agreeing, she's sitting up there lying about all that stuff. Folks probably still vote for her though. Probably still vote for her. Anyway, the last thing I wanted to mention to you guys was this video with Tucker. He's been in Russia, and so he did a video where he went to the store and bought some groceries and just like had some kind of, I don't know, epiphany while he was buying the groceries there. And it's a weird video that people are like roasting him over.
I went from amused to legitimately angry. So we were guessing what this would cost. Everybody hears from the United States buys groceries, and we didn't pay any attention to costs as we were just putting in the cart what we would actually eat over a week. And we all came in around $400, about $400. It was $104 US here. And that's when you start to realize that ideology maybe doesn't matter as much as you thought, corruption. If you take people's standard of living and you tank it through filth and crime and inflation, and they literally can't buy the groceries they want, at that point, maybe it matters less what you say or whether you're a good person or a bad person. You're wrecking people's lives in their country, and that's what our leaders have done to us. And coming to a Russian grocery store, the heart of evil, and seeing what things cost and how people live, it will radicalize you against our leaders. That's how I feel anyway, radicalized. We're not making any of this up, by the way, at all.
I don't spend $400 a week on groceries, not because it's not possible. It's just, I guess it's just not super disposable right now to be doing that. But people are noting right now in this video and different replies, quote tweets and so on, that when you go to different countries, the American dollar has a lot more buying power and can go further. So this situation in Russia, I don't know, he's been a lot of places, I would assume. So I don't know why, if he bought that stuff in America, that he would think would be anywhere near $400 at all. When I went to the Philippines, and granted this was like in I don't know, 2005-ish, with my family, we could not convince those people that we were not wealthy. And we went there for a mission trip. It was me and my 3 older siblings and my dad. And it was a step of faith to go. Things were tight. They would not. We got cashier checks and they would not cash them anywhere. It was like hard to get them to cash that. And then we had unexpected expenses, like the people we were traveling with. We'd like ride on these, they're buses, but they didn't have tops, and the backs were kind of out and stuff. I can't remember what they're called, but basically the people who invited us, we were like paying for stuff everywhere we went. For usually you go places, you expect like people to kind of take care of you. We were like taking care of them. And then they were really into bribes over there. Tipping was weird. They didn't know what to do with that, but bribes were a thing. Like we were asked to sing. We were asked to sing on a TV show. And then they expected us to pay that. We're just like this. They're just like, this is how it works. We're like, what? So that's just how it worked over there. So anyway, we had unexpected expenses, and it was just kind of rough for us. But we did the Lord's work there. But you could not convince them that we weren't rich, because we like did things like go to the mall and we got Pizza Hut and we ordered the 2 pizzas, some cheesecake, we got pop and maybe some breadsticks. And it was like 20 something dollars, maybe, if even. And we couldn't believe how cheap the stuff was. But they were just floored that we could afford so much stuff at all. So it's amazing to us how cheap it is, but to them, it's still expensive. It's still expensive. So there's people who will go over, save up some money in the US, go over to the Philippines or different places and retire and just live like kings. So Tucker going to Russia and like, oh my gosh, this is radicalizing me because food is so much less expensive over there. And it's expensive here. That's always kind of been the case. But we still spend far less proportionately or percentage wise on our food than the people of Russia do, compared to like the budgets that they have. And our annual salaries are higher. And, just because, their subways are clean and stuff doesn't mean that they're in a good situation. Like he keeps seems to uplift Russia, and they have like major indoor plumbing issues. Like their sanitation is far worse. And like there's some bad areas in the United States that are awful that I would want to avoid, not want to be around at night. Places that used to be nicer that aren't so much now. There's a decline of a lot of different places, don't get me wrong, but this is still like the greatest country in the world. And I just don't get the simping, I guess, for Russia. Like someone had posted his video, and there's a community note on it that says the US dollar has strong purchasing power in poor countries. It seems cheap to him, but it's expensive for them, which is, what I already said and already noted. Russia spends on an average 30% of their income on food. In the US, it's 6%. Russia is not by any standard a low cost, high standard of living country. So this is bizarre. Again, like they just, when we went to the Philippines, they just thought we were rich. Also, like we got massages and manis and petties, and I don't know, it was probably like $30 for me and 2 of my sisters. That was like the only like massage I had ever paid for to get, because I'm not really big on massages. Maybe I need them, but they don't feel good. So I'm like, you're squeezing me. I don't like it. I don't like how it feels. So my sisters love massages. My mom loves massages. After church on Sundays, we would like line up to like massage her shoulders and stuff. And we just keep going until our fingers are tired. And then one year for Christmas, I was like, Mom, I have the perfect gift for you. And she's like, and it's not money? I'm like, no, Mom, it's not money. I've got you a really good gift that you will really like. And so she just reflected, paused and reflected. She's like, and it's not money? My mom, she loves money. Okay. She'll get the money and go buy what she wants, which is probably shoes. But it wasn't money. I got her one of those shiatsu massagers that you put around your neck. And I have not massaged her shoulders since. So and I think she's bought like another one since then. It was a good gift. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, different articles, different videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. There's cost to streaming, run my website, all that stuff, so you guys can support. I do very much appreciate it and appreciate you guys. You guys can check out different merch that's available on the store, like this black tea mug. And we got, other shirts. We got pro-life shirts and other stuff. We got this Make Crack Whack Again Trump 2024 shirt. You guys can check out other stuff as well. You guys can check out my books. They're available on Amazon. If you go to blacktnews.com on the merchandise page, there's a banner that will take you to my book website where you can learn more about my mostly fiction books, but I do have non-fiction books like, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion, that covers rights, science, theology, etc. And it's good stuff to know, because people say the most wackadoodle stuff on that topic, man. And I would give you an example, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole today. So anyway, thank you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.